Greetings from the Eccentric Man, and this video report is about the tournament that I ran at the weekend, November Pain. This is the second tournament I've run. The first one was Shrapnel earlier on in the year, and that one went quite well. This one's November Pain, and again it's at the local game store, Lost Ark Games in Stevenage. We had 10 players, hoping that we were going to have 14, but a few dropped out. However, it meant that I was able just to run the tournament, not have to participate. My Italians were used by a chap who turned up, whose figures were very small. They were 1980s 25mm, tiny figures. So the tournament was 1,000 points, and it was either one rifle platoon or two rifle platoons. And it could be either generic, or it could come from a theatre book or an army book. So had the options to choose whatever they wanted. Next up was the scenarios, and the scenarios were, first one was meeting engagement with a secondary objective, which was to capture an objective. The second game was key positions, and the secondary objective was to kill the opposing officer's top officer. And the final game was demolition. A slight amendment to it: the demolition bases were deployed 9 inches from the back of the table inwards, so it just made it a little bit closer to the opposing force. And the secondary objective was a spy who they had to capture and escort from the table. So those were the 3 scenarios for the day. We had 10 players, and that gave us 5 tables that we laid out: a desert table and some tables with buildings on, and one final building which looked more like Canada, but that's how it goes, I suppose. It could have been somewhere in Europe, but it was mostly trees and fields and different things and rocks, so that gave us a variety of tables to play on, and they all seemed to work quite well, which was quite good because they were set up by the players themselves at the beginning of the day. I just had a quick look just to see how they were going, but it looked all okay. What I did find amusing was that the desert table, you don't get too many hills on bolt action tables for some strange reason. I don't know why, but the desert table, I'd put 3 hills underneath the cloth, so you couldn't actually see them sticking out from above. But once you were on the table, they did cause line of sight difficulties, and there was a number of people who got caught out by not thinking that there were hills on the table. So that worked quite well, and I was quite pleased that that gave them an extra little thing to think about. The tables were set out in such a way that heavy artillery shouldn't really have an overly oppressive effect on people, and that did seem to be the way that it worked. We had some really nicely painted armies. This one was Colin Robinson's French army. He's painted up the tanks really nicely. He's got a mixture of French irregulars and his Senegalese tough fighters. Yeah, really nice. I think he even runs with a couple of inexperienced squads in there. So yeah, a nice army. Nicely painted and looks good on the table. And you don't often see too many French armies. You can see there he's got 2 Charbis and a little armoured personnel carrier. So yeah, a nice army. Next up is Rob LeMay's mid to late German army. He has spent a bit of time customising these as a Hydra force. I will put up one still photograph of this army, and it is worth zooming in on. You will see that each of the troopers has got a head with a helmet and a gas mask on. The barrels at the back were his objectives, and they are filled with gold coins. This is the Hydra German army. Really nicely done by him, and the Jagdpanther proved to be very effective during the tournament. Next up is Andrew Culliford's, and he's got a German army. He's got a 222 there, and he's got a Panzer IV, and his is probably more or less a late German army. He's running with a Nebelwerfer at the back there and a heavy mortar, so quite reliant on some heavy artillery. Bit of a light move with the armoured car, and some Tiger Fear coming in with the Panzer IV. Squads of veterans, and he has assault rifles in there and a sniper team. Yeah, quite a hard little army, that one. Not too many dice, but some really good assets to fight with the infantry, and that the Panzer IV, given Tiger Fear, can really put a hamper on some of the armies that he faces. So, yep, a nice little army there as well. Next up is John Leggett from Strong Oak Painting Services. He was running a Soviet list, and as you can see there, he's got, I think that was a medium howitzer, and for his armour, he's got a Katushka rocket firer. He's got 4 2-man anti-tank squads, and then he's got his main infantry units there. An interesting little army with forward deploying troops, which in some scenarios can work really well. Certainly when you're looking at taking objectives right at the beginning or capturing people, it would work really well. And I think during the game he did use it to some degree of success. Tricky with some of the armies that he came up against, but it worked quite well. And certainly those forward deploying units were a thorn in the side to a couple of people who we met. So yeah, another nice army. I haven't got photographs of other people's armies, and they weren't spread out at the time as to catch them, and then it was a little bit busy. I was going through. Just to finish off, a few pictures of some of the tables. Not very many, as again I was quite busy running around and doing things, and actually I was enjoying myself just watching the games and answering a few questions here and there. One of the things which was totally away from the game was the guy who runs the store, Steve. He's got, much like me, we've picked up some big box sets from Warlord Games. I've got the American War of Independence, and he's picked up the Waterloo set. And we were trying out a new product, to us anyway, and it was Vallejo Grey Wash. Not seen it before. And we were wondering about how it would work to do lots of troops. Obviously the French and the British have quite a bit of white clothing, so waistcoats, trousers and strapping. So we practiced on a Gates of Antares figure. He sprayed it white and we applied the grey wash. Gave it 2 washes, and I think it could work really well for people who wanted to do a quick paint job on a lot of white figures. The grey was reasonably nicely subtle and covered well, and went into the recesses without overly pooling. And when it was dried, it looked as if you could either get away with doing a quick dry brush, or if you wanted to be more accurate, putting a highlight of white on the raised surfaces. Doing away with having to do doing away with having to layer and then highlight. But I shall have to give it a go myself. So I'm going to be looking out to get some grey wash from Vallejo. So an interesting one. Have a look at it. If I get it, and I can get it soon, I'll perhaps do a little video on how it works. I'll do a couple of the American War of Independence units with it and see how it comes out. So very good it was. But anyway, back to the tournament. As I say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I put up some little videos live as I went along, and everybody seemed to enjoy it. There was a good buzz about it. One of the things for the store is getting people to see what's going on, get more players in, get new people to have a look at it, and it was quite good over the day. We had a number of people who had seen it online and have come in to have a look, and there was other people who were thinking about it, and obviously once they saw it in operation, saw how good the game mechanism is with the dice coming out of the bag, they actually went for it. So hopefully the store will pick up more sales, and there'll be more people to play bolt action at the store, which is always a good thing to keep it going. A lot of the terrain that we see here has been made by the store owner, Steve, and he's done a really good job with it. We could have had another 3-4 tables. Yeah, probably about another 3-4 tables up, so we could have fitted another 8 people at least. So hopefully I'm trying to get another event set up March next year, 2018, and have Shrapnel 2, and perhaps get a few more players in. If anybody's watching this is localish to the area, keep an eye out. Come and join us on Facebook page, Bolt Action Stevenage. That's the one that's run by the store. Or join up to my Facebook page, which is the Eccentric Man Battle Reports on Facebook. Just give an ask and I'll accept you in. So yeah, have a look and try to get this, as I say, end of March. We've got a Camsbridge too far, which is the early part of March that we're going off to. So we've got to set ours a little bit later, so it'll probably be towards the end of March. And we'll be looking to get 18 players at least to fill up the store to have a good game. So yeah, that's what we're after, and that's how we would like to run in the future. So Shrapnel 2, and then we'll do another November pay, no doubt, at the end of November, at November 2018. One of my favourite figures from the day was this one here by Andrew Culliford. His guy running along, oblivious to the figures that were attacking him, reading his book. Whether it was his manual on how to fire the gun, or whether it was the secret plans for the operation, who knows? But it made me giggle, that figure. It was quite amusing. I painted up a number of figures to use as the objectives for the last game. They were a mixture of Warlord Spies and Warlord Games civilians for Operation Sea Lion. Some really nice figures they are. And the objective was to capture the spy and escort them from the table. Here we've got the Soviets capturing the British RAF to take her into custody, or I suppose it could be to save her from the Germans. But that was one of the objective markers. Another one was a 1940s policeman, which was quite apt really, because I am a retired police officer from the UK, and painted him up, and here he is again being saved by the Soviets. We'll call it saved by the Soviets, I'll go for that. Yeah, so that was good. They had to capture him and secure him and keep him safe. Yeah, a great day. Everyone seemed to enjoy themselves. The prizes were given by Steve from the Lost Ark Games. Everyone went off with a little prize, which was really nice. The top people were able to pick up an ISU 2, Stuart 3, an Australian unit. So it was really good. So yeah, if you're in the Stevenage area or around the Stevenage area in March, please look out. I'll probably be going up onto Warlord website and onto the Lost Ark Games website within the next month, I would think, a date for March and Shrapnel 2. So yeah, it'll probably be £10 a ticket from the store, and it'll probably be again 1,000 points, 1 rifle platoon or 2 rifle platoons max. So on to the final placings, and first place, Colin Robinson with his French army. Had to work really hard in the last game. His opponent Rob LeMay had managed to twice get somebody onto the objective for demolition to blow it up, and Colin managed at the end of each of those turns to kill the person who was in base contact with it. That saved him the game and got him a draw, which gave him 12 points for the overall total, which gave him top place. So well done to Colin, he did really well. That draw by Colin with Rob meant that Rob went into second place with his Hydra build German army. He was very unlucky with Colin, and it could have gone either way, but it went into Colin's favour. Third up was Matt with his Soviets. Snuck in there at the end, nearly didn't get third. Andy Culliford, who was fourth, nearly took it. Andy put his Panzer IV onto the demolition point, but Matt was able to sneak up behind it, with a lone Panzerfaust in the squad. Needed 5s to hit, needed 5s to penetrate, and then blew it up to get the win, because he then got onto Andy's objective that same turn. So it gave him the win and put him into 3rd place above Andy. Here's the final picture of Rob's Hydra Germans. Totally legal list for the German time, but he's converted them to give them the Hydra look. Those of you who know it, I must admit I haven't watched it, I haven't seen it, but they look really good on the day. And as it's a bolt action event and it's fun and it's friendly, they are what they are. They're armed with what they're armed with. They were there and they played and they did really well. So thanks to everyone who came along. It was a great day. Come along to Stevenage and Lost Ark Games. See us on the Facebook page and we'll be very welcoming. Please give it a tick if you like the video. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, because there'll be more videos coming up. Share with your friends and see you next time. I think the next video up could be a King Tiger unboxing and build. That's what I'm looking to do. So speak to you soon.